It's all covered in today's China Truths.
The Chinese Communist Party has insisted on fighting a trade war with the United States, regardless of the miserable people's livelihood, which has led to a large number of enterprises shutting down, cutting wages, and laying off workers, exacerbating the worsening unemployment problem. Recently, some Chinese scholars reminded the authorities not to glorify the spirit of hardship and not to treat ordinary people as cannon fodder. Orders have fallen off a cliff, and bosses are in a state of panic. As the U.S.-China tariff war continues to escalate, export-oriented Chinese small and medium-sized enterprises are facing a survival crisis. From OEM factories that produce false eyelashes to medium-sized factories that export aluminum doors and windows to retail merchants in Yiwu International Trade City, they are either shutting down and waiting or struggling to sustain price wars with profits close to zero. Business owners bluntly said that under the current multiple pressures of weak external demand and intensified internal competition, how to survive has become the most urgent issue at the moment. Under the shadow of the U.S.-China tariff war, Chinese foreign trade companies are experiencing an unprecedented reshuffle. Nie Huihua, a professor at the Department of Economics of Renmin University of China, said in an interview with mainland media recently that the United States is the world's largest buyer country, and its tariff policy will inevitably affect China's export-oriented economy. Nie Huihua emphasized that de-Americanization, or complete decoupling, is unrealistic and called for avoiding emotional operations at the policy level. Australian historian Li Yuanhua: "This is mainly because the CCP did not dare to do so at the beginning. It did not act, but it misjudged the situation. It thought it could pull the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and even Australia and Canada in Asia, and thought it could form a so-called anti-American alliance. But in the process, we actually saw that various countries did not follow it, including Xi Jinping's recent visit to Southeast Asian countries, especially Vietnam. Although many agreements were signed, these countries did not really follow its tone to oppose the United States." Nie Huihua mentioned that there is a misleading saying popular in the market now, claiming that Chinese people can endure hardships so they can outlast the United States. He believes that this statement is untenable. He asked in return, "Is your goal to outlast others or to live a good life for yourself? You cannot use the concept of suffering people and treat ordinary people as cannon fodder." American economist David J. Wong: "Don't call them cannon fodder. I think it is overestimating to call ordinary people cannon fodder. What does cannon fodder mean? It means to support a group of people and let them sacrifice for you. That's called cannon fodder. But now these people not only need to be supported but also give back to the government and sacrifice themselves at the same time. So these Chinese people cannot be considered cannon fodder." Li Yuanhua: "Then the authoritarian and centralized country is actually a rogue government. Its so-called bargaining chip is to sacrifice enterprises, sacrifice employment, and sacrifice the starving. It even believes that as long as it does not affect the stability of its regime, the death of some people is nothing. This is also the evil part of authoritarianism." Nie Huihua emphasized that China needs to pay the most attention to employment and youth issues at present. Employment is the basic foundation. If employment is stable, the country is stable. If youth are stable, employment is stable. It is true that the employment problem of young people is a big headache for CCP society now. In fact, this also conceals the CCP's entire population structure and economic development model. The CCP's population has actually entered negative growth, and it is a cliff-like population decline, including the death of many people in the epidemic. The entire social structure is an inverted triangle, that is, an aging society. Nie Huihua said that in the current context of economic downturn, personal destiny is inevitably swept away by the general trend. He encouraged young people to seek survival first and then seek development. David Huang: "The first is the spread of social disappointment. Second, the government may launch a mass fight, and the situation of mutual involution is getting worse. It may be because of too many social problems, so the government may use more means to maintain stability and promote more ways to divert social contradictions. The whole society has entered a very impetuous but cohesive state. Gao Tianyu, author of The Middle Class Must Die, wrote in the Hong Kong Economic Journal that China's exports to the United States last year reached US $524.7 billion, accounting for about 15%, making it the largest export market. If the goods sold to the United States via a third country are added, the U.S. market may account for more than 20% of China's exports, which is very important. Now, Chinese goods sold to the United States will face tariffs of up to 245%. Some manufacturers in Guangdong, Fujian, Zhejiang, and other places have announced shutdowns and layoffs, and many people have lost their jobs. David Huang. The whole society cannot provide a future for the general public, and the market cannot find a good direction for development. As a whole, various situations are superimposed, and in the end, it will become very difficult to control, and the whole society will be in a very turbulent state. At present, the continuous accumulation of unemployment problems has not been solved. This year, more than 12 million college students will graduate, and this year may be the most difficult year for employment in history.
Shanghai fires the first shot, supply cut wave about to erupt. In a significant policy shift, Shanghai Mayor Gong Xing recently unveiled a new plan involving 3 systems: periodic housing inspections, housing insurance, and housing pensions. This move, which netizens are calling a covert property tax, marks Shanghai as the first city in China to adopt these measures. Details emerged during the 15th expanded session of the Shanghai Municipal People's Congress Standing Committee on August 20, where Gong Xing outlined the phased implementation plan. The program will begin with pilots in districts like Pudong this year, with a broader rollout across the city slated for next year. Just 3 days later, on August 23, Deputy Minister of Housing and Urban Rural Development, Dong Jiangwo, announced at a press conference that not just Shanghai, but 22 cities will begin piloting these 3 systems. This announcement has sparked significant public concern. The financing of these systems, whether they will be government-funded or homeowner-paid, is a primary concern. Liu Jia, chief researcher at the Housing Policy Research Center of the Guangdong Urban Planning Institute, told Chinese media that the new housing systems would operate similarly to personal pension schemes, involving both individual and public accounts. However, given the ongoing disarray in China's pension system and the severe debt crises facing local governments, there is widespread skepticism that the government will bear the cost of these housing pensions. Netizens have largely interpreted these new systems as a disguised form of property tax, expressing concerns that it goes beyond merely extracting funds from property owners but rather represents a deeper and more aggressive financial burden. Discussions online reflect worries, with some highlighting that, in North America, such costs are justified by land privatization, but in China, where land isn't privately owned and houses are essentially temporary assets, imposing a housing pension is unreasonable. Others pointed out, those who were undecided about defaulting are now firmly resolved to do so, while noting that the state's relentless financial extraction from its citizens is without equal. The 3 systems are widely seen as a rebranding of property taxes, a covert form of levying taxes. If revenue generated through these systems is allocated to local authorities, it could lead to more aggressive implementation, with local governments intensifying efforts to extract funds from residents. Taiwanese economist Wu Jialong once told the Epoch Times that the CCP's strategy to cover fiscal shortfalls involves seizing wealth, potentially granting local governments more autonomy to address their financial challenges. This approach, he warned, could result in a scenario reminiscent of the late Qing dynasty's fragmentation, leading to local divisions. Wu also anticipates that China might soon exhibit signs typical of dynastic decline, such as covert tax hikes, rampant money printing, inflation, widespread public distress, government oppression provoking dissent, and even peasant uprisings. Moreover, Wu predicts a series of crises that could ultimately lead to the CCP's collapse, austerity measures triggering deflation, followed by financial and fiscal breakdowns, culminating in the regime's downfall. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.